Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. So, Mikey Garcia recently did an interview with PBC on Fox, and where he stated, his plans to vacate the WBC lightweight title. Mikey Garcia also stated, you know, ultimately his goal is to be a fifth division world champion. He believes he can compete at welterweight, and he wants to fight again at the welterweight limit and would like to fight another welterweight champion. He understands that most likely he'll fight at 140 pounds or even another one at 147, but just not a top champion. That's more likely not going to happen. He would prefer to skip all tune-ups and fight nothing but top champions, either at 140 or 147, but his ultimate goal is to get another title in the fifth division at 147 pounds. So let me just speculate a little bit about Mikey Garcia. Now, you have to look at it like this. What other champion could Mikey Garcia get at 147? Errol Spence Jr. is planning to duck Terence Crawford and fight Shawn Porter. So we know that he's out of the mix, and we know Shawn Porter would be out of the mix because he's not going to get a rematch with Errol Spence without a title shot at least. I just don't see that happening because there's no demand for the fight. He was thoroughly outboxed and dominated. So exactly who would you fight? Then you look at Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman is looking to fight Manny Pacquiao. And then after Manny Pacquiao, who knows what Keith Thurman will do? Keith Thurman gets injured. Keith Thurman avoids big fights. He's similar to Errol Spence in that regard. So you can't expect Keith Thurman to step in and fight Mikey Garcia, who does have good power and pop at 147 pounds. Believe it or not, I give Mikey that he does have pop because he did have Errol Spence Jr. looking to avoid all those big heavy shots in the fight. So I give Mikey that, but the problem is I don't think Keith Thurman would take that fight. I just simply don't. So if Keith Thurman won't take the fight, Errol Spence Jr. and Shawn Porter are out of the running. That would only leave one name, and that's Terence Bud Crawford. So down the line, you could see Mikey Garcia challenge a guy like Terence Bud Crawford, who's a world champion, who no one wants to fight, who's a massive payday, and who's a huge name. Mikey Garcia and Terence Crawford have history from back in the amateurs. So you can definitely see that fight unfolding. And at the same time, a lot of people are going to question Mikey Garcia's motivations because at the end of the day, if he couldn't make a deal with Bob Arum for Vasily Lomachenko, and the fact that he would even approach them for a fight for Terence Crawford, people will feel some kind of way about that. They will look about maybe call it a duck. At the end of the day, I don't think that Mikey Garcia should be fighting at welterweight. I don't think he should be looking to fight any welterweight champions. But if he does, if he tries to stay in the division, I think the best fight for him at 147 would be against a Danny Garcia to truly gauge whether he belongs or not. I know Mikey Garcia has an iron chin, and Danny Garcia is a vicious counterpuncher with a low work rate. So I think Mikey Garcia could have an advantageous advantage fighting a guy who doesn't have a high work rate, like Errol Spence, like Bud Crawford, or like Shawn Porter. So Danny Garcia would be a great introductory fight to welterweight as far as trying to get acclimated to the weight. And if he doesn't fight Danny Garcia at 47 next, then he could fight Maurice Hooker at 40 next. I would favor Mikey in the fight against Maurice Hooker. I think Maurice Hooker has too many defensive deficiencies, and I think that would be a good fight for Mikey. Either way, I can see Mikey competing at 140 successfully, but I cannot see him competing at 147 successfully. He's giving up too much height, reach, weight, and power to too many fighters. There's too many good fighters at 147 pounds. And stylistically, it wasn't a weight acclimation that cost Mikey Garcia the fight. It was pure boxing. The fact that Mikey Garcia got outboxed, the fact that Mikey Garcia had no plan B, the fact that Mikey Garcia made no adjustments. These are the reasons why you lost to Errol Spence Jr. It wasn't because the guy was just naturally bigger necessarily. Now understand that the height and reach played a major factor, but the fact that Mikey Garcia didn't anticipate that being an obstacle to overcome and having a plan B should Errol Spence come in the box, that's what perplexed me about the whole fight. So I think Mikey Garcia must readjust the way he, his approach to these fights, his game plan, and maybe even his training, because at the end of the day, you can't come into a fight with no plan B. You can't come into a fight not anticipating somebody doing the unexpected. That's what separates, champions from greats. That's what separates guys. Ultimately, I think Mikey Garcia should go down to 140. If he can't make 135, I understand. But you definitely need to go to 140, 147. I just don't see where Mikey competes. But if he does compete and go after another champion, there's only one champion left, and that's Terence Bud Crawford. Once again, Unbiased as always. It's the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.